Hi, everyone. It's your host, Sydney. Welcome back to another episode of Metabolism Diaries. Today, we have on a special guest, Caley Svensson, where she talks about her GLP-1 journey. She's lost over 100 pounds. She started her journey in July of 2022. She was struggling with obesity and diabetes at the time, and she has maintained her weight loss to date. I can't wait to get into this episode, and I also really encourage you to check out her socials. She lives on a farm, which is so cool. She rides horses, and she has really great interior design taste. So I'll pass it over to Caley.
My name is Caley Svensson. I started my GLP-1 journey 3 years ago, back in 2022, is it now? Yes, it's July of 2022. So
Okay.
I have been on a GLP-1 now for 3 years. And I feel like as a lifelong, you know, weight conscious fighting obesity girl, I'm so used to tracking things, trying to journal things. And I felt like for the first time after a couple months into my GLP-1 journey that this might actually work.
Yeah.
And so I started a TikTok account. I had never done TikTok really before ever. And as an elder millennial, I did TikTok because none of my friends were on it. Everyone was on Facebook and Instagram. And so I felt like TikTok was like the private way to share my journey and
Yeah.
then like maybe help people that were suffering with obesity or going through the same thing. But then it kind of got a little bit more popular than I thought.
Yeah. Was that popularity like right away that people were really resonating with your GLP-1 content, or did that come a little bit later?
Yeah, the GLP content was primarily the focus of my TikTok and pretty much still
Okay.
is the primary focus of this TikTok account. And yes, like I put up a video about losing my first 30 pounds on a GLP-1
Mhm.
and how I couldn't believe that it was actually working and sort of all the experiences that I was feeling. I was started on Manjaro when Manjaro had just hit the market. I believe Manjaro came on to the market in June of 2022
All
and I
right.
started in July. The reason I started with Manjaro was because while it was new, it was supposed to be better tolerated for, over Ozempic and more successful. And obviously, another huge benefit was that it um, had a coupon for $25 off. I mean, so for $25 for the month. So, like compared to trying to pay like five, six, $700 for Ozempic
Yeah.
at the time, this was $25 a month. And so, yeah, that was the obvious choice. And so, as soon as I talked about that my first 30 pounds and I couldn't believe that video went viral and I think it had over 200,000 views. And then I'm like, oh, wait, maybe this might resonate with some people. So if people are invested in this journey, then I'll keep going, you
Yeah.
know?
No, definitely. And let's backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
So, for those who don't know, I've seen from your TikTok, you're someone
Hmm.
who you've mentioned has struggled with your weight since you were
Hmm.
little.
Hmm.
And what was the moment when you were like, okay, I'm going to try a GLP?
Yeah. So I think it's important for people who are listening to understand that obesity doesn't always look like what you might think. I
Yeah.
think that when you have the disease of obesity, again, I want to like preface this with that I'm not a doctor, but from my own personal experiences, there were, times that I was very heavy and then there were times that I'm not. And like you'll see times in my life, or if you go back chronologically, that like at my wedding, I was thinner, but I was also really unhealthy and, using things like anorexia and things like that to try to control this disease. And it would always come back. No
Yeah.
matter how hard I fought, like it would always come back. And I constantly felt like a failure. And so obviously throw babies into the mix, pregnancies in my
Mhm.
early 30s. And I was like, postpartum and I was so depressed and it was over like well over a year and a half now where like you're supposed to get back to your baby weight, pre-baby weight, which wasn't even like a great weight for me. And I just remember turning to my husband after like I was on Octavia. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but it's
No,
that
I
like
don't know what
powdered.
that
Oh
is.
my God, it's horrible. So I had just failed off. It was very expensive. It's like $300 a month. And it's actually
Okay.
like powdered food mix. And
Oh,
you're like
wow.
supposed to eat like every 30 minutes. And, yes, you lose the weight, but it's because you're not eating and you're starving. And it's
Yeah.
horribly like chemically laced foods. And that was after like going back on Weight Watchers and going back on meal like kits and all the
Yeah.
other things, hiring a personal trainer, like sacrificing money to try to do all the things.
Mhm.
And my health was just like getting worse. My ankles were hurting, my joints were hurting. And I had just gotten back from the doctor and I was pre diabetic. So it was very a wake-up call. Like, I was really close to being diabetic,
Yeah.
and I just said to my husband, like, "I need to do something." So ironically, he read about this medicine in, a newspaper, and he's like, "Listen, like, I'm a doctor, and I don't know much about this. It's kind of new, but let's go talk to an endocrinologist," because at the time, endocrinologists were only really prescribing it.
Okay.
So we drove like into New York City, which is, about like 45 minutes from my house, and
Yeah.
found a wonderful endocrinologist who was like, "Yep, like you're a perfect candidate for this and let's try it. Like, are you open to taking shots once a week?" And I'm like,
Wow.
at this point, nobody wants to say like they at the time, and I think still the rhetoric is out there that you feel like a failure,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you feel like you've failed all the other things and now you have to take medicine because you're just one big loser and you couldn't do anything else. Like, right? And that's not the case.
Definitely.
Like, you don't say that about people who are depressed or people who have
No.
high blood pressure.
I wanted you to talk about that because this
Yeah.
is something that really resonated with me on your TikTok.
Yeah.
You said, "I take Zoloft for my depression.
Right.
I
Right.
take a GLP-1 for
Right.
obesity, which is a condition." Can you speak a little bit
Yeah.
more about that? Because there's still so much stigma around it.
So I think that even speaking with my endocrinologist, she used the same rhetoric. And she was like, listen, like if you look at obesity as a disease,
Mhm.
you are treating your disease. And, just like I do suffer, I'm very candid with the fact that I suffer from anxiety and depression, and I take Zoloft. And if I stopped taking my Zoloft, I would get more depressed and I would get more anxious. So, yes,
Yeah.
my Zoloft is a lifelong drug. My husband is born with high cholesterol. All of his family members have high cholesterol. It is genetic. He is on Lipitor, and there is no shame in that game. At like in his
Yeah.
late 30s, he started on Lipitor and he takes it every day habitually. I also have a bad thyroid, and so I'm on Synthroid for my thyroid. So just like I am treating all the diseases, that obesity is another disease. And until you switch that mindset
Yeah.
of like treating your obesity as a disease, like I don't think the questions are as simple as like, well, when are you stopping? And it's like, well,
Mhm.
if I stop, what's going to happen? My disease is likely going to come back, just like my
Definitely.
depression, just like, so it's really important to feel like when I sat in that office, I felt like such a failure. And that was the least thing I was. I was actually should have been really proud of myself for getting help to address a disease.
Yeah. Completely. I think, because it's a new drug, there's a lot of fear around it, and I remember my dad was
Mhm.
also, like, very
Mhm.
early on it and has lost over, like, 100 pounds, struggled with obesity his whole life.
Mhm.
At first being like, I was scared at first to hear he was on this, but this will be better than him dealing with the health conditions
Of
that
course.
come along with obesity. And, he always thought about all the different surgeries and everything, and so it's really a miracle drug, and something that I felt, and I'm wondering if this resonates with you at all, is I couldn't believe that, like, scientifically, like, this really might work for you. Like, this
Mm.
really might make you thin. Like, I remember I've been microdosing it for a few months, and I remember feeling like,
Mhm.
but excited, of course, but also scared. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I was waiting for it to stop working. And to be honest with you,
Yeah.
Sydney, like I feel like I'm still waiting. Like I feel
Yeah.
like, things are very normal now. My relationship with food has been very much healed. And prior to going on this medication, I did do a lot of intensive therapy trying to kind
Okay.
of get to the source of intuitive eating and things like that. So
Yeah.
I was in therapy as well as a personal trainer, X, Y, and Z. And that's not to say that those parts of the puzzle aren't still important,
Yeah.
but it's really sometimes that like little devil in the back of your head is like, oh, it's going to start failing. And you're going to
Yes.
or like I went to actually try on, I get Stitch Fix, like a mail, order clothes thing. And so I still like went to go try on my pants, and that like panic moment of when you put your leg in the, like you put your leg into the pants and you're like, oh my God, these aren't going to fit. But like
Yeah.
they did, you still kind of get those little like flashbacks still.
And
And that's,
adjusting to your new body, like, both
yeah.
physically and mentally. And can you speak a little
Mhm.
bit more about that? Have you, like, enjoyed shopping? I mean, everyone dreads
Mhm.
trying on jeans and stuff, and I feel
Mhm.
like it's a little bit less of, like, the sweats in the dressing room of the nerves.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never forget, like, I went to, like, a local boutique, and I'm sure every girl has this moment, but, like, I looked around and it was like a Pretty Woman moment and nothing fit me. I was not,
Yeah.
in the regular straight sizes, and I just remember, like, my husband trying to be really sweet about it and the saleswoman trying to be sweet about it, and I just, felt so ashamed that, like, and you hate to say the word ashamed because every body is beautiful, but it's what you feel and, what I felt, and
Mhm.
so the idea, like, I went into Zara, like, I never fit into Zara, like, I always thought, like, Zara was some
Yeah.
crazy European company that, like, was for really, really skinny people, and I could never fit into it, but, now I go into Zara and shop, and, it looks a little bit different and it feels better to go clothes shopping. I think it's one of the like perks of being in like straight sizes now.
Definitely. I think that will definitely resonate with people. And also, so I know you said you've been on a GLP-1 for 3 years. You've lost around 100 pounds.
Hmm.
And can you also tell me a little bit about that first year? What did that dosage look like when you were
Hmm.
kind of at your like losing weight? And then what was the
Yeah.
highest one that you were on? Of course, for everyone, it's different, but
Yeah, of course. So I started with Manjaro because Zepbound wasn't available then, and it, just became available like a year or so ago. So on Manjaro, my first month was 2.5 just to get my body acclimated for the first month. And then I went up to 5. And I have to say, 5 was like a really exciting dose for me because had a lot of success with 5.
okay.
And so I had a lot of success and I stayed on 5 for about 2.5, 3 months. And I remember calling my endocrinologist and saying, hey, like, I feel like my weight loss has slowed down. What do I do about this? I feel like I'm still being really careful with my protein and being active. And she's like, no, that happens. Like just like weight loss, you hit a plateau, and that's why we go up in a dose. So after about 3 months, I went up to 7.5. And I remember being on 7.5 for like a handful of months, 2 to 3 months. I don't know, like 7.5 wasn't really like the kicker for me. I felt like I lost
Okay.
like 10 or so more pounds, but it wasn't as fast as it was on 5.
Yeah.
And then I went to 10, checked back in with my doctor. We went up to 10, and 10 was like the best dose. And honestly, that's still my maintenance dose at this time. I'm still on 10, but 10 I was on for like a good chunk of months. I want to say 5 or 6 months, and I
Okay.
continued to lose. And then it got me really close to like that last 15 pounds, 20 pounds of, and I know the word goal is arbitrary. Everyone's goal is different. I just wanted
Yeah.
to be like a regular size 6, like something that was just really healthy on my body, something that my body felt comfortable being in. Didn't
Yeah.
want to be super skinny, didn't want to be. So that just felt like a good number for me. And a healthy BMI, of course, most importantly. And then, so within the last 20 pounds, I'm like, okay, I think we need to kick it up just a little bit to help me get through that threshold. I feel like it's the longest mile at the last point. And so that's when we went up to 12.5. And then I hit my goal at 12.5. And then it was talking about coming back down and like, how
Yeah.
do we start to titrate down once
Yeah.
you want to be on the least amount of medicine, I think, in general, for the longest time you can be. So, if I could come back down successfully, I wanted to. So then I came back down to 10. And I was like, all right, well, like 10, we seem to be maintaining at that, like, I'm always like about like 140, 142 pounds, something like that. And then I was like, all right, well, let's try 7.5. Let's try to take it down to 7.5 for maintenance. And immediately I gained like 10, 11 pounds.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is necessarily enough. So let's go back up to 10. And as
Yeah.
soon as I went back up to 10, I was steady in
Okay.
that like 5 pound range.
Okay. And now I need to hear about the side effects and what are the biggest ones that you've encountered?
So, I have to say, like, for the girlies out there who have been pregnant, I like attribute it to like first trimester. For me personally, I felt nauseous. I felt tired. Like my relationship with food was different. Like you take a couple bites and I'm like, wait, I used to be able to eat this whole box of lo mein. And now like I can eat 5 bites and then like, what the heck is going on? And you're just not like craving anything anymore. And I talked about kind of the mind game with like, what do you do with yourself when you don't have cravings anymore? Like
Yeah.
TV looks different at night, right? And so there's a lot of other mental side effects that you go through, but physically, personally, I know people said that they have diarrhea, they had constipation, they had nausea. I personally only experienced nausea and sleepiness. I really didn't
Okay.
experience any like constipation or diarrhea. That just wasn't. I do TMI get diarrhea if I eat bad choices. Like if I go out drinking and if I have a lot of greasy foods, the Manjaro, the GLP-1 will never let you forget you're on a GLP-1. It will remind you very quickly and make you pretty sick.
I
So,
actually do remember also you said something really
yeah.
brilliant on your TikTok where you said, like, Manjaro won't let you forget that you're on it even
Mm-mm.
on your birthday when you're eating.
Yeah, no, you're screwed. Like you want to go out and have a bunch of drinks and like have cake with your friends. Okay, you're going to be like I went on a birthday cruise for my 40th and like I'm in the bathroom all night. Like
Yeah.
it just is what it is. Like there is always a give and a take. And like for
Mhm.
me, the give is so worth all of the health benefits I'm taking away being on this medication.
Definitely. And Are there any supplements or what do you take to kind of counteract some of those side effects?
Yeah, I think like I swear by one of the protein shakes a day. So I
Okay.
love like organic Orgain protein shakes, and whether like I've replaced a big snack with that. I try to get as much protein in as I can in the morning. So like Greek yogurts, the protein shakes, eggs, just tons and tons of protein. Even like some switching like some of my cereals to like the protein heavy ones. And like now at night I'm an old grandma and I eat Raisin Bran because listen, like nobody wants constipation. So there
Yeah,
are different, like, strategies I switched up in my daily eating habits, 90% of the time to make sure that I'm getting enough protein, and the one thing still to today that I still struggle with is water. I just don't drink enough water, and so I know it's supposed to be better for your skin and for digestion and everything, and I just still struggle.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And do you work out? Are you moving your body? How many times a week? What does that look like?
Yeah. So being on the farm, I know we had talked about the fact that I have a farm. I have horses, and so I have to muck stalls every day, and I
Okay.
try to horseback ride at least 4 to 5 times a week.
Wow.
So, and being a mom of 3 kids and a wife, I'm constantly on the move. I think that
Yeah.
if I sit down for an hour a day, that's lucky. And so, but there, if I'm sick or if like I'm like having a really lazy vacation where I'm laying on the beach,
Yes.
like I can tell my body starts to gain weight. If I'm out of that like not being active phase,
Mhm.
then like it's very important. Like there are several pieces that I constantly see that I need to maintain this weight loss and to
Mhm.
be maintain this healthy body, and moving it is very important. So when I don't move like I typically do, it will reflect in the scale. And I try
Okay.
not to look at the scale that much. I should say I reflect it in my clothes. My jeans are always my number one teller now. I used to have a horrible relationship with the scale, so I really try to stay away from it.
I think a lot of people can relate.
Yeah, we just really don't like the scale. It's just like that, and I used to have to consistently, like, weigh myself every morning, and, like, the number on that scale would determine whether I had a good day or a bad day, or
Mhm.
whether I'd be happy or depressed, and I just don't feel the need to do it anymore, but, like, I can tell by my clothes now for, like,
Okay.
edging on that comfort zone, you know?
And do you grow any of your own food on the farm? I envision you're eating, like,
Yeah.
farm to table every
You
night.
would think, you would think. I have to say that, like, I do still have a lot of my bad habits. Like, takeout is something that I just love. I love
Okay.
takeout. I love all different types of foods. I like cooking, but, like, we do have a small garden. The goats eat too many of my crops. So we do, and we have chicken, so I do get a lot of fresh chicken eggs. So the eggs, yes, like, in the morning especially, we have tons of fresh eggs, but no, just more of, like, I retired my horse in my backyard, and the goats are just kind of friends for the horse, and the pig, no bacon. He is our pet. So he just lives inside with us as a big dog.
That's so nice. Was it always your dream to live on a farm?
It was always my dream to live on a farm, and I remember as a little girl having, like, invisible horses and pretending I had
Oh,
horses in my backyard, and so to be able to give my kids the childhood I dreamed of is
yeah,
something very special, and I don't take it for granted at all.
definitely. And do you cook family dinner ever, or what do
Mhm.
dinners look like in your house?
Yeah, that's actually what we're doing as we speak, and, like, I'm, actually so I love this meal. It was, like, one of my go-to, GLP-1 meals in the beginning when I used to feel very nauseous because it was, like, a nice chicken thigh, and I cooked it with, like, onions and rice and, like, just a little bit of diced tomatoes, and I felt like
Ooh,
it got me my fiber from the tomatoes. The rice kind of helped, like, ease my queasy belly, and then the chicken was good protein, so it was, like,
okay.
that's what's cooking on the stove as we speak.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah.
And did you take a multivitamin throughout this journey or
Yeah, I apologize. So I definitely do take a multivitamin, just like a women's multivitamin. I have very fair skin, so vitamin D is always something that I'm cautious of. So I do
yeah,
take vitamin D supplements. As vain as this is to say, I take zinc because I've heard it makes your Botox last longer. So I definitely do that. And then my last one is I always take a probiotic. I noticed that, and again, TMI maybe, that I used to get some yeast infections being
okay.
when I started a GLP-1. Now I can't say if they were related to it or not, but my gynecologist recommended a good like over the counter cultural
Yeah,
women's health probiotic. And since I started taking that daily, I have not had any
okay.
since. So
And how has your relationship with food changed? People talk about this like quieting of the food noise. Have
mhm,
you experienced that or do you just eat smaller portions? What does it look like
yeah.
for you?
So for me, it's really the food noise is quiet. Like for the longest time, I would forget to eat. And I would always say, like, I would never be that person. Like you would see
Yeah.
friends and be like, how do you forget to eat? How do you not eat lunch? Like come on, girl. Like, you want to eat lunch, but no. So I feel like the food noise is very quiet. Big changes I notice around my house is like, especially now with holiday times, like holiday cookies coming in, lots of treats, lots of baked goods for the holidays. And mine just sit on the counter and like, holiday, like Halloween candy. I maybe had like a Kit Kat.
Okay.
So it's crazy to think that those kind of compulsive snacking habits that I used to
Mhm.
have, not necessarily being hungry, but that like not mindful eating is gone. And that's kind
Yeah,
of turned off of me. And I still love my sweets. I still love my sugar, but I really feel like it's all in very much moderation for me. It's like the reduced portion sizes.
that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I know you have a series on your TikTok, which people should definitely go and check out, the 12 Days of Manjaro, where
Oh
you're
yeah, that was a
fit.
couple years ago for sure. Yeah.
But I'm wondering, what are your tips to get through the holidays? Because I think,
Yeah.
especially with Thanksgiving and,
Yeah.
Christmas and all those holidays, for a lot of people, at least for me, and I think I'm sure for everyone, it's about eating a lot and overeating. And so, how did
Hmm.
you handle that, being on a GLP-1 and the emotions
Yeah.
around not being able to overeat?
Yeah, and so I think that, to be honest, Sydney, if anybody goes into the holidays thinking that they want to overeat, I mean, I think that's crazy. I feel like, feeling nauseous and having your pants full and like unbuttoning buttons like that, to me, that just was never fun. It was, to me, the holidays felt very uncontrolled and they felt like I was out of control and I couldn't stop myself from eating. I was definitely a binge eater and suffered from binge eating a lot of my life. And there was no off button. And so to be on a GLP-1 and having an off button now and sitting at the Thanksgiving table and knowing that I'm going to be okay with a couple of bites of mashed potatoes, I'm going to be okay with my protein and my turkey. And I know that I can walk away and still enjoy the rest of the night. To me, that is the most beautiful gift I could ever be given in the whole world. Like, even if I was still in my heavier body, to have that gift of being able to walk away from things and not feeling like, oh my God, I have to eat everything. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to hide this cookie because I definitely want that later, but I don't want people to see that I've had 3 cookies and that I need to have a fourth and I'm going to put this. Like, those are the things that I don't miss at all. And being able to have a bite of a Christmas cookie and being able to walk away, like
Yeah.
really focusing on moving the holidays away from food to people and love and family
Okay.
is the most beautiful gift a GLP-1 has ever given me.
Yeah. That's really nice. And how has your relationship with alcohol changed?
Mhm. I think it's really changed, and I'm so excited. I have several alcoholics, some recovering alcoholics in my family, and so for me personally, I'm, like, waiting on bated breath. I know that it's in testing
Yeah.
to see if it helps with alcoholism, and for me personally, I just have no, desire to drink. I mean, I don't think anybody like, I never really would be classified as a drinker if you talk to any of my friends. I definitely would love to go out and party, but you can't really do that anymore on a GLP-1, and that's kind of what's tricky about this is that I feel like the conversation for like how do you have fun and let loose on a GLP-1 is kind of opened up like, well, is, marijuana legal in your states and like what does that look like because you just don't have fun the way you used to have fun on alcohol. And I'm just going to say it. It's not the same being on a GLP-1 and I still wouldn't change it for the world, but it's not the same.
And can you explain what happens if you drink on a GLP-1? What do you start
Yeah.
feeling?
If I drink on a GLP-1, I mean, me personally, I'll still get like a nice little buzz, but then immediately I start to feel like the shut off, like I have no interest in continuing to drink. It's like kind of with food, right? There's that built in safety net. Like I will have a few bites, I'll have a few drinks, and then I want to walk away. I have no
Yeah.
interest in like moving on to the next level of having fun and partying.
Yep.
And while you see all of your friends and family like getting silly, you're kind of just sitting there like, all right, I'm ready to go home. Like, this is enough. So for me, it's having that shut off button. So you'll get the like, personally for me, you'll get the good buzz. And if I really, really push through that, it's usually, and maybe this is TMA, but like not the drunk that I want to get.
Right.
And then I end up being just really sick from it. And that's no fun either.
Okay. And for someone who is gonna have, let's say, like,
Mhm.
1 drink around the holidays
Mhm.
on a GLP-1, it's their first time drinking on it,
Yeah.
what would be your advice? Like, what's the go-to alcohol that
Yeah.
has worked for you?
The go-to alcohol for me, and my friends were just talking about this, was definitely like a low sugar alcohol. Think that like the Atkins diet bring those kind of mentality thoughts back regarding alcohol. Anything low sugar is going to help you maybe keep away from getting sick and always drink your water. If you can,
Yes.
like I'll chug like 3 liquid IVs and water bottles before I go out. And I know I'm going to have a couple drinks because I just feel like the dehydration comes on so much more quickly with the GLP.
Definitely. And what would be your advice to a mom or someone who is thinking about taking a GLP-1 but is very scared?
I would say if you're thinking about it, like what I would say, listen, any medication comes with risks. And, I did a recent TikTok on like people saying, well, aren't you worried about cancer? I'm like, well, I was worried about getting cancer if I was obese because obesity drives 10 times more cancers than a GLP-1. So for me, it's about risk factors and where you are. And yes, it's a commitment. For most insurances, they don't cover it and it's cost, prohibitive for many families. But for me, if you're in that spot where you feel like this is a good fit, like, why are you waiting? I feel like if I could have done this 20 years ago, I would have. And who knows what life would have looked like. And I say that in terms of like my self confidence, saying no to parties. I mean, saying no to the wedding invitations because I was too embarrassed to go,
Yeah.
saying no to all those things. I couldn't imagine if this had been around 20 years prior, what I would have said yes to. So
Yep.
it's like all the missed out things that I don't miss out on anymore.
Wow. And I have a few more questions, and that
Yeah.
brings me to the glow up that you talked about a little bit,
Yeah.
GLP-1 glow up. Can you explain what that's looked like for you?
Yeah, it's actually inspired by a friend of mine. She didn't know I made that TikTok because I don't think she has TikTok about her. Like, we kind of like look at each other and I'm like, I know you look amazing. You're glowing. And I'm like, I know you're not saying it because I kind of like said to her, I'm like, you're amazing. You look so great, and you're just like glowing. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, so are you or okay, we're not doing that. Good. But listen, girl, I know you're on it. Like, I didn't say that, but I just said, like, you look amazing. You must feel amazing in that outfit. I was like, you look like you've been working really hard at the gym. And like, I feel like sometimes people, I've even had these kind of candid conversations. You can't even say that because people get offended. You don't
Yeah.
want to like talk about like a weight loss or you look good. So I just say like, you look amazing. You're glowing. It's a safe way of saying like, I know that you've been working hard. I know that maybe perhaps you've been on a GLP-1, but we'll keep that your dirty little secret if you want to.
Yeah.
But the glow up is real for people on a GLP-1. You just kind of have this new aura about you.
It's interesting. And, I think that, the kind of conversation, the secret around it, of course, no one needs to tell anyone, no one needs to tell
Right.
anyone what
Right.
medication they're on. But since starting this podcast and since talking to more people about, how interested I am in this space, more and more people have told me about their stories, friends,
Yeah,
coworkers, and just the connection that you have and the community and support that can be built from there is so invaluable. And like, that's why
exactly.
people like you sharing their journey online is so important.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I want to start this podcast is because there isn't enough support. There's a lot of, I don't know how you deal with this. I'm curious, but there's a lot of like on social media, can't think of the best phrase for this, but like scary little reels that kind of get you that
Yeah.
are about this new study is this and that, these side effects that they hold on to. And then you also see the reel that also Advil has all those side effects. So
Right.
how do you deal with all of that? The first few
You
months I
know,
was emailing my doctor, like, is this true? Is this true?
yeah. I have to say I have a cheat sheet because my husband's a doctor. So I go
Okay.
run right to him and I'm like, hey, is this true? What do you think? But again, I was never really overly worried about the side effects because I was feeling so many physical side effects prior to taking this medication.
Mhm.
Like the idea that I couldn't ride my horse anymore, my joints were hurting. I constantly had to sit down. Just the whole way of living life, I could never go back to that. So for me, whatever side effects or risks are coming out, they're constantly being weighed. I constantly look at them. I mean, I'm an educated woman but still to this day, a GLP-1 is constantly hands down the best choice for my life.
Definitely. And I see a lot of people, especially on social media, very afraid about hair loss. Have you experienced
Mhm.
that?
So it's funny, I get that so many times on my TikToks, and I haven't, unfortunately. And,
Okay.
I did check in with my doctors. I was warned about it. I really did not experience hair loss. I do have a ton of hair.
That's great.
So I'm sure maybe I had a little bit of shedding, but I really truly attribute it to the fact that, listen, you're going through a weight loss journey, whether you're on a GLP-1 or not. If had bariatric surgery, any sort of other type of weight loss, you're going to experience hair loss. That is
Yeah,
not just exclusive to a GLP-1. So people need to be mindful of that.
definitely.
And that as soon as you hit your maintenance, your hair will start to grow back.
Yeah.
So do everything you can to make sure that you're just taking care of your body properly, treating it like the beautiful temple your body is,
Hmm.
putting all the protein, the water, your multivitamins, take some Nutrafol if that makes you feel better, some other hair growth vitamins, but it will come back for sure.
Definitely. And how have you managed these conversations about weight loss in your GLP-1 journey with your kids?
So it's funny, my son right now is 12 and hitting like his preteen years, and he's struggling, and he says, "Well, it's okay. I'm just going to take the shot in a couple years." I'm like, "Well, hang on. Like I understand that you have parents who suffer with obesity, and I understand that. And of course, the conversation will naturally come up if there's something that you're not feeling comfortable about. But I have to tell you, and maybe I'm in the minority, if my kids and I had a long conversation once they get into their teens and they would like to take a GLP-1, I absolutely would do that. If it could
Yeah.
prevent bullying and horrible depression and self-confidence issues because of what body they're in and they don't feel comfortable in it, then I absolutely would do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much about that as someone who comes from a family that has always
Mhm.
struggled with obesity. Like, what
Mhm.
would, high school
Right.
school looked like if
Right,
it happened?
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine what middle school would have looked like if I wasn't being called a horse, like, walking down the aisle, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it's if I can give that gift to my kids, if the doctor, my pediatrician, and we all come to the conclusion that's the right decision, absolutely. If I could be a parent and shield my kids from that light, you
Definitely.
know?
And what would be your one piece of advice to someone who's just starting this journey?
My one piece of advice to somebody who's just starting this is buckle your seatbelt. It is a long ride, but it is the best thing you will ever do for your life. Like no medication, no life choices without some, repercussions in terms of side effects or things. And the side effects go away. They are not forever. You will feel normal again, but you will have to learn, you will have a different relationship with food, and you're going to have to figure out what to do when you watch TV because snacking and night snacking is not the same anymore. I think that some of my biggest advice as well is read the book Intuitive Eating, and find out why you were reaching for those snacks, because that really walks hand in hand with the GLP-1, because there's a lot of mental work to undo when you start to unravel your journey with obesity.
And I want to hear my last question is really about you've been on it for 3 years. You lost
Yeah.
almost 100 pounds and
Mhm,
you've maintained that. And you also talk on your TikTok about ups and downs. And so
mhm.
I want you to speak a little bit about that because I think a lot of people are curious about plateauing and
Mhm.
not to panic. And you've gained
Yeah,
10 pounds,
yeah.
like 5. And so can you talk a little bit about that and how you've managed the ups and downs?
Yeah, I think honestly it's a journey for me as well. When I hit my goal, I was really really happy, and then we're starting to play with maintenance doses and I'm gaining weight again. And all of that panic kind of set in, like, "Oh my god, I'm failing. This is not working anymore. I'm gaining the weight back. I'm just going to be, back to where I was, and what am I doing?" And I want to say that goes away. That
Mhm.
kind of like red like light freak out moment will go away. You start to learn that plateaus and ups and downs are par for the course of life. And you cannot expect that you are going to live your life at one certain weight. And I think the beauty of this medication is it gives you the confidence to know that should I ever kind of get into this pickle of like, oh my God, we're really going up, I can adjust the dose,
Yeah.
and that's always a possibility. Nobody's saying I have to stay at 10 for the rest of my life.
No.
But to have a flexible mindset and remember that you're not failing, you now have help to address your obesity is the
Mhm.
most important thing. So, you're not doing this alone anymore.
Yeah. And okay, I guess I'll ask you one last question before we
Yeah.
hop. You talked a little bit on your TikTok about tracking your measurements in terms of like
Mhm.
a tape measure or something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Like the first time you gave yourself the shot, did you
Yeah.
think you would get to the body that you're in today? Did you think that was possible for yourself?
Never in a million years did I think I was going to be in this body that I was today. Never in a million years did I think that when I'm looking at my waist and like it's well over a good circumference and that's healthy, did I think that I would be a size 27, 28 waist and a size 6. You couldn't have written that in the stars. I think that that was and more importantly, I never thought I would be able to maintain it. I mean, I
Yeah.
think through unhealthy ways I have been able to like kind of, and I hate to say it, starve myself down to something similar to this in the
Yeah.
past. But the fact that I'm about to go eat chicken and rice and not think twice about it and not measure it and just kind of go with my instincts as to when I'm hungry and then stop when I'm not hungry is a gift that like I never dreamt of in a million years. It's really healed my relationship with food.
That's so nice, and that's a perfect thing to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I know this is
Of
gonna help
course.
me and so many other people, and so I really appreciate
Always. This
you
is why I
sharing.
started the journey, and, like, I always said, like, 3 years ago, if I could help one person or maybe one person feels like they can relate or I
Yeah,
always answer my DMs the best I can, and so I'm happy to help. I'm not a doctor, but just somebody, like, trying to hold your hand through this scary journey.
that's
And it's
so
not
sweet.
scary, but I think the journey of healing the wounds of obesity.
Definitely, and it's still very new, so we need people like
Yeah.
you sharing the journey that have been on it from the beginning. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Metabolism Diaries. I'm your host, Sydney Rafe. Subscribe if you liked this, leave a comment, send it a thumbs up. I see all your comments and I will reply. And if you're on a GLP-1 or thinking about starting one, always feel free to send me a DM. I'm always here to chat. See you guys next time.